In August 1947, India achieved independence, but the moment was immediately overshadowed by the tragedy of partition. Millions of people were suddenly displaced, forced into crossing newly drawn borders during a chaotic and violent mass migration. This created a massive administrative vacuum. The founders needed a working government immediately. Designing an entirely new state apparatus from scratch risked a total collapse of order. This was the reality facing the Constituent Assembly, the body of delegates tasked with drafting the rules for a massive, newly free democratic republic on an impossible timeline. Look closely at the document they produced, and you'll find elements taken from nearly every major democracy on Earth. It's why critics often dismiss the Indian Constitution as a bag of borrowings or a copy-paste job, but they didn't blindly steal ideas. The founders surveyed the world's best democratic systems and extracted specific mechanisms to armor a highly vulnerable new nation. To understand the Indian Constitution, we have to look past the legal jargon and treat it as a sequence of engineered solutions designed to solve specific national crises. The immediate foundation for this project was a British law, the Government of India Act of 1935. To restrain that power, they imported American software, fundamental rights, and judicial review to keep lawmakers in check. Judicial review acts as the Supreme Court's superpower. If the Parliament drafts a law that violates the Constitution, the court has the authority to strike it down. By crossing British parliamentary power with American legal restraints, India engineered a bespoke system of checks and balances calibrated to its specific needs. Then there was the geographic reality. India was a massive landmass that had been carved into provinces purely for administrative ease by the British. The risk of the nation fracturing into separate states was high. The American federal model, where independent sovereign states willingly joined together, was too decentralized. Applying that structure to a fragile, newly partitioned India would invite further division. The solution came from Canada. India adopted a strong center federal model. Instead of giving excess authority to the states, any undefined or leftover powers, known as residuary powers, were placed in the hands of the central union government. To manage overlapping jurisdictions, they looked to Australia, adopting the concurrent list, which allows both state and central governments to pass laws on specific subjects, and the mechanism of parliamentary joint sittings to resolve deadlocks. The joint sitting looks like a pure compromise on paper, but because the central Lok Sabha has roughly double the members of the Rajya Sabha, this mechanism ensures that in any deadlock, the central government almost always has the numbers to pass its legislation. This specific blend of Canadian centralization and Australian legislative mechanics was an intentional failsafe. It prioritized the survival of the nation over regional autonomy. An administrative machine and a power structure solve the immediate problem of governance. But a nation also requires a moral compass for its future and a panic button for emergencies. For the moral direction, the Assembly turned to Ireland. They adopted the Directive Principles of State Policy, a set of guidelines meant to steer the government toward building a socially equitable welfare state over time. For the panic button, they studied the Weimar Republic of Germany. From there, they took a controversial crisis mechanism, the executive power to suspend fundamental rights during a declared national emergency. By incorporating both Irish social idealism and strict German emergency pragmatism, the founders balanced the goal of a fair society against the very real threats that could destroy the republic. But this leaves one final structural problem. A rigid set of rules drafted in the late 1940s would eventually snap under the weight of modern societal shifts. To solve this, they integrated South Africa's procedure for constitutional amendment, formalized in Article 368. This gave future generations the legal mechanism to alter the text, preventing the document from becoming an outdated relic. Which brings us back to the critics. Does a nation's identity rely on its founding document being 100% original? The chief architect of the Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, didn't think so. He understood that drafting a reliable legal framework wasn't an exercise in artistic originality. It was an exercise in meticulous adaptation. The Indian Constitution is a customized democratic synthesis. The founders took the most effective governance tools from around the world and passed them through the crucible of Indian reality to build a state that endures for generations.